Hello everyone, back again with MovieHub. In this video, I am going to recap one of the horror mystery films from 2017 titled Marrowbone. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. In 1968, a single mom brings her 4 children to her rural childhood home, the Marrowbone residence. They have come all the way from England to start a new life. Mom then asks all her children to forget about their gruesome past and make new memories. She also declares that they will no longer use the surname Fairbrae, and they shall now use Marrowbone, her maiden last name. Her youngest child nervously asks, "Will he ever find us?" But Mom assures him that no one will bother them again. Following this, the family begins living happily in their new residence. Since they are new in the area, no one knows them and they can finally roam around as they please. One day, as the 4 kids are strolling near the woods, they come across a peculiar school rock formation. Here, they meet a girl named Allie and quickly befriend her. Over the course of the next few months, the group has a lot of fun, and they spend most of their time together. It appears that the Marrowbones have finally attained peace in their life after their horrible past. However, tragedy strikes once again. Mom suddenly falls ill, and the family has no money to cure her. In her final moments, she calls her eldest son Jack and asks him to take care of his siblings. She also warns him not to tell anyone about her death until he turns 21, as that is the age he can legally take care of his siblings. Until then, Jack has to stay hidden with his siblings. Mom also directs him towards a secret box hidden in the cupboard. When Jack opens it, he is completely taken aback to find that she had her husband's money all this time, and this is when she takes her final breath. In the aftermath, Jack calls all the other siblings in the room and reads his mother's final letter, in which she has requested all of them to stay together. After Jack, the second son is Billy. Then there's Jane. And finally, the youngest kid is Sam. Here, Jack makes them vow that no one will ever separate them. Following this, they bury their mother and start living anonymously in the Marrowbone residence. One day, as Jane is chilling in her room, a gunshot shatters her window, and then she spots a man holding a rifle in his hand. This freaks her out, and she immediately starts calling for her elder brother Jack. Then cuts to 6 months later, and it appears the siblings have moved on from the incident. They have either moved or covered all the mirrors in the house to protect them from an apparent ghost that lives in the attic. The siblings believe that he is long gone, but nonetheless, they don't want to take any chances and keep the mirrors hidden. Jack often tries to go to the attic to check, but every time he gets a bad headache, forcing him to retreat. Among all the siblings, Jack is the only one who goes outside the house to get supplies. One day, he visits a pharmacy in the nearby town to get medication for his mom, implying that he still kept her death hidden. We can also see a wound on Jack's head, but it's uncertain how he got it. After this, he goes to the local library, where Allie works as the librarian, and turns out they are having a romantic affair. Allie helps Jack with some books so that his little brother Sam can be homeschooled. But their conversation is interrupted by the sudden arrival of the town lawyer, Porter. It is revealed that he has a one-sided love for Allie and often comes here to visit her. But when he sees Jack alone in the room with her, he gets jealous. So he approaches the boy and reveals that he is in charge of the Marrowbone estate. Tomorrow, he'll be visiting their home to collect the transfer charges and his mother's signature, which will finally put the estate in their name. Jack claims that his mother is really ill, so he offers to take the documents home and return it to tomorrow. However, Porter insists on visiting their home as he needs to certify their mother's signature. He also mentions that the transfer charges amount to $200. When Jack reaches home, he anxiously tells his siblings about the situation, and if the lawyer gets to know about their mother's death, they will be separated. They also have no money to pay the transfer charges, so Billy suggests they use the money their dying mother left them. Jane vehemently refuses, reminding her brother of the promise he made to never touch it again. But Jack knows they have no choice. Since they had already discarded the box in the woods, Billy is tasked to retrieve it at a scheduled spot on the beach. Soon, he comes across a narrow cave where he finds a knife. He also finds the box and quickly brings it home. That night, the siblings open the box and find a lot of cash in there. This makes the brothers happy, but Jane is still upset that they broke the promise, claiming it is the cursed money of their father. The very next morning, the four begin renovating the house to make it seem like they're a normally functioning family. Jane is tasked with forging her mother's signature, so she spends hours practicing it. Jack also enters his mother's room to get some belongings, and little Sam wants to go inside too, but Jack forbids him. Shortly after, Porter arrives at the residence, and he's greeted by Jack. Jack gives him an envelope containing 200 pounds, and the cunning lawyer happily accepts the cash because it's worth more than $200. Jack then claims that his mother is really unwell, and she will be embarrassed if someone sees her. So he requests Porter to give him the papers so he can go upstairs, have his mother sign them, and come back. The lawyer reluctantly gives him the documents, and Jack rushes to his mother's room. But Jane becomes even more worried about she learns that she has to sign not one, but 2 documents. At the same time, Porter decides to take a tour of the house. There's no one around, which slightly confuses him. He also spots a covered mirror near the stairs and removes the cloth. Soon after, he slowly makes his way towards their mother's room. Jack hears it from the other's end, so he asks his sister to hurry. Fortunately, they manage to get the signatures done right before Jack can find out about their dead site. The lawyer then signs the same papers and officially transfers the estate to their name. Before leaving, he also talks about their father, who had apparently done bad things in the past. This means that he knows the entire history of the Marrowbones. That night, the siblings celebrate their success by engaging in a pirate board game. At one point, Billy gets so excited that he throws his dice on the floor and it ends up in a different room. Little Sam goes to check the numbers and he slowly proceeds towards the darkness, but when he reaches the stairs, the cover on the mirror by the stairs suddenly falls to the ground. This frightens him and he immediately shouts that the ghost has returned. So a panicked Jack hides all his siblings in a fortress they've made inside the house. The trio awaits in anxiousness while Jack goes to cover the mirror. Jack climbs up a ladder and somehow gets the job done. But when he peeps through a hole in the ceiling, when Jack comes to his senses, he finds himself back in the fortress, and Billy reveals that he had to go out and bring an unconscious Jack here. Jane believes that the ghost is back because they used the cursed money. So the very next morning, Billy climbs on top of the house, opens the chimney hatch, and throws the money box down. Now it rests inside the attic along with the ghost. On the other hand, Porter approaches Ellie on her way to work and offers her a ride. She tries to refuse at first, but upon much insistence, she agrees. On their way, Porter brings up the topic of Marrowbone siblings. He expresses his worry as they live in isolation and are barely interacting with the community. Little Sam doesn't even go to school, but Alice clarifies that the boy is homeschooled, and she checks his notes every month. Porter also asserts that the siblings are living like this because of their father. Allie knows that the man was a cruel person, but Porter claims that calling his just cruel is an understatement. That evening, Jack takes Sam near the window and shows him how to communicate with Allie using Morse code. They use a flashlight to send their messages to each other. The duo and Allie are happy as they communicate with each other. The next morning, they see Jack and Allie having a romantic time near the beach. and she asks him more about his father. Jack is uncomfortable by the conversation, but he reveals that his father was a monster who did unspeakable things. He was the reason why they came all the way here to America. Ellie then inquires if his dad is still in England, but Jack reveals that he is dead. He can't hurt the family anymore. The couple shares a passionate kiss, but unfortunately Porter spots them forum after, and his eyes are filled with jealousy. When Jack returns home, he is confronted by Billy. The latter is fed up with being a prisoner in his own house, while his brother can roam around anytime he wants. They had made a deal that Jack can only venture out in an emergency, but now he's dating Ellie behind their backs. The brothers get into an argument which causes Jack to become inexplicably weak. In the evening, while Jack is taking a bath, Sam steals his keys and sneaks inside his late mother's room, where all the mirrors are kept and covered. Sam really misses his mom, which makes him break Jack's rule that he can't go into their mom's old room. He then tries to close the window curtains, but he slips and falls. Ow! Suddenly, a cloth covering the cabinet mirror falls, and he comes face to face with the ghost in the mirror. Up next, Jack wakes up from his sleep and finds his siblings in a distressed state. Jane informs him that Sam sneaked inside their mother's room, where he saw the ghost. At this point, it is revealed that the ghost they are talking about is none other than their father. He came here all the way from England to kill them, but the siblings locked him inside the attic and walled up the entrance, and then he was left to starve to death. Jane suggests that they give him a proper burial to bring him at peace, but Jack vehemently refuses. Elsewhere at the library, Porter comes to visit Ellie once again. He is about to be transferred to another city for a higher position. Taking this opportunity, he asks Ellie to come live with him, assuring her that they'll have a good life. However, she rejects him and says she never looked at him that way. Porter knows that she rejects him because of Jack, so he gives her a case report about the Marrowbone siblings. After he departs, Ellie opens the folder and finally comes across the shocking truth. Turns out that the siblings' father, Mr. Fairburn, was a serial killer who committed a lot of murders. He also assaulted his own daughter, Jane, and he was finally put behind bars when Jack testified against him in court. But just a few months later, Fairburn somehow escaped from prison. At home, Jane is busy with her course when she hears her pet raccoon making noises from the attic. She approaches it from a hole in the wall, but when Jane then extends her hand to feed it, something creepy touches her from inside, and she can't rescue her raccoon as it is dragged inside the attic. On the other hand, Porter receives a call from his superior informing him that his transfer has been called off. They now want him to become a partner and buy 10% of the shares. In order to be a partner, the money required is $5,000, which he doesn't have at the moment. After the call ends, he goes into a fit of rage and begins throwing his stuff around. During this, he comes across a news article revealing that the 10,000 rounds Fairburn stole are still missing. Porter realizes that the siblings have it, so he goes to their house later and confronts Jack. He claims to know about their forgery and threatens to expose it unless Jack gives him the £10,000 as compensation. After they depart, Jack goes inside the house, where his worried siblings are already waiting for him. Jack claims that it's all over now, as they have no way of retrieving the box from the attic. But Billy has other plans. That night, while everyone is asleep, he goes to the roof of the house. He opens the chimney hatch, ties himself to a rope, and slowly climbs down to the attic. Once there, he lights a matchstick to observe the surroundings, and shockingly spots half-eaten animals and a container which has been filled with water. He eventually finds the money box and proceeds to depart. But just then, he hears a noise, and the creepy figure emerges from the shadows. He is none other than their father, who has managed to stay alive. Panicked, Billy climbs the rope with all his strength, but his dad starts pulling it from below. This causes the boy to get entangled within the ropes, and he also drops the money box back inside the attic. Fortunately, he manages to cut himself free with a knife and climbs back to the roof. In the morning, Jack wakes up on the floor, visibly hurt and disoriented. He finds Billy in a severely injured state, and the latter claims that he went into the attic to retrieve the money but failed. Shockingly, he came across their dad, who is alive. The old man has managed to survive by storing rainwater and feeding on rodents. Hearing all this, Jack becomes so disoriented that he collapses and starts having a seizure. Jane manages to calm him down, but she knows that her brother's health is at great risk. Therefore, she suggests to tell the entire truth to Ellie, as she's the only one who can save Jack. That night, the siblings interact with Ellie using Morse code and ask her to come to the schools tomorrow. The following morning, Ellie arrives at the said location, excited to meet the siblings after lunch, but all she finds is a book with the title Our Story. She goes through the first few pages and learns how the family arrived here in America. At the same time, Porter arrives at the Marrowbone residence to collect his cash. But he doesn't find anyone, not even Jack, and the place looks eerily creepy. Porter takes this opportunity to venture inside their mother's room and finally confirms that she's dead. Moments later, he finally comes across the walled-up entrance to the attic. Porter believes that the siblings have hidden the money there. On the other hand, Ellie continues reading this book. She reaches the point where a man suddenly showed up outside the Marrowbone residence and shot at a window. This sends the movie into a flashback, and we learn that the man was none other than Fairbanks. He had come all the way here to kill his children. Jack, being the eldest son, locked all his siblings in the attic and decided to deal with the man alone. He grabbed the box containing the money and waved it at their father, assuming that he's after it. As soon as Fairbanks saw the box, he called his son inside the forest. Once they reached a scheduled location by the pit, Jack asked the father to take the box away and never cause tragedies to the family again. Unfortunately, the father is a very sick and vengeful man. He attacked him. Jack stabbed him in the throat with a knife and managed to get away from there, but he was eventually cornered by his father on a cliff. Then, in a cruel act, Fairbairn pushed his son down from there. Before proceeding towards the rest of the siblings, Fairbairn then descended inside the attic through the chimney and attacked his children. Jack regains his consciousness shortly after, and with a wounded head, he rushes to save his siblings. But by the time he reaches the attic, there is complete silence. Back in the present, Porter manages to break inside the attic, where he comes across a horrific sight: the rotting bodies of the three siblings, Billy, Jane, and Sam. In the past, when Jack realized that his siblings were killed, he didn't open the door, but bricked up the whole attic. He then decided to kill himself, but at the same time he heard voices of his siblings. When he checked inside the forgers, he saw them alive and well, making him think that they are still alive. From that point onwards, Jack covered all the mirrors so that he won't be reminded he's alone. And as the days passed, his younger siblings became his alternate personalities within his mind. This is the reason why Porter never met anyone else in the house, and Jack was the only one to venture outside. In the prison, Ellie is reduced to tears after learning the harrowing truth about the Marrowbone siblings. She rushes to their house and finds Jack inside the fortress, embroiled in a conversation with his alternate personalities. Ellie tries to snap him out of it, but Jack doesn't want to believe his siblings are dead, so he shouts at her to leave. But as Ellie walks up, she spots the torn down attic entrance and hits inside. Then she is horrified to find the discolorating bodies of the siblings. She also finds Porter, who is severely wounded in the throat. At this point, Ellie realizes that she is not alone in the room, but before she can run away, a severely malnourished Fairbanks closes the door. She then confronts the father, who's been kept captive and alive inside the attic all the time. Ellie calls out to Jack, but he doesn't even bother coming for her. So she starts calling out to his alternate personalities instead. The plan works, and the Billy inside of Jack decides to help her out. Fairbairn launches at Ellie and almost chokes her to death, but Jack arrives in the nick of time. With a single shot, Jack puts an end to the nightmare. The movie then cuts to several months later, and we learn that Ellie has decided to stay with Jack to cure the man she loves. The doctor asks her to give Jack his medication on time, so he can stay away from his mother and other personalities. However, Ellie discards the doctor's advice. She knows that he feels good around his siblings, so she lets him be that way. The movie ends as Jack sees his younger siblings playing in the fields happily. He still thinks that they are together as one family. Thank you for watching us. Please don't forget to subscribe us.